Imagine you wake up and the world's map starts lighting up like a warning board. Not one disaster, not 10, but every nuclear power plant on Earth failing at the same time. This is a thought experiment, not a prediction. We're asking one question. If the impossible happened, what would the world look like in the first hours, the first days, and the years after? Where could people still live, and how would life change? First, one critical truth. A nuclear power plant is not a nuclear weapon. A reactor doesn't detonate like a bomb. But accidents can still be catastrophic for a different reason: loss of cooling. Even after a reactor shuts down, it still produces residual heat. If cooling systems stop removing that heat, temperatures rise, materials weaken, chemical reactions can produce hydrogen, pressure can build, and explosions can occur that damage structures and open pathways for radioactive releases. So in this scenario, we're not talking about hundreds of nuclear mushroom clouds. We're talking about hundreds of complex crises with the same logic: time, heat, damage, and release. In the first minutes, the world doesn't feel radiation. It feels electricity. Power grids depend on balance. If large amounts of generation disappear in the same moment, protective systems trip, regions disconnect, and blackouts cascade. Cities go dark, elevators stop, water pumps slow or fail, some hospitals switch to backup generators. Transport and logistics begin to fracture. And that's critical because stabilizing any nuclear site requires people, fuel, replacement parts, coordination, and access. In this thought experiment, those lifelines break everywhere at once. In the first hours, some facilities hold for a while. Emergency systems keep running, backup generators, power pumps, operators fight for control. But the scale is brutal. You can't send help everywhere because everywhere is on fire. Fuel supplies are limited. Equipment failures don't wait for orders, and at some sites, overheating begins. Think of a reactor like a massive furnace. You turn off the flame, but the heat inside remains. Without cooling, temperature still climbs. Pressure rises, structures weaken, hydrogen can accumulate, and explosions can damage buildings and vital systems. From that moment, a plant stops being a power source and becomes a source of risk. Then comes the word everyone fears: releases. But here's where movie logic fails. Radiation doesn't spread as a perfect circle. It behaves like smoke and dust in the atmosphere. If material gets into the air, it forms a plume, a long ribbon carried by winds. And the factor that can matter even more than distance is rain. Rain pulls particles out of the air and drops them to the ground. That's why contamination maps after major accidents often look patchy. One area is relatively clean, another, just a few miles away, can be far worse. Not because the cloud chose it, but because the weather did. So within the first day, the world doesn't get one exclusion zone, it gets a mosaic of zones. And humans are not built to live inside a mosaic. People want a clear line, safe or unsafe. Nature doesn't draw clean lines. You can be far away and still get hit by wet deposition. You can be closer and see less contamination if the wind shifts and there's no rain. It's uncomfortable, but it's the reality of how airborne particles spread. So, which territories are hit the hardest? In this experiment, the most vulnerable places are not entire continents, but combinations of factors. First, proximity to sites that suffer the most severe failures. Second, where prevailing winds carry plumes in the following days. Third, where heavy rainfall occurs during plume passage. Fourth, population density and the ability to evacuate quickly. You can imagine it like this. Around some sites, high contamination areas appear and may become long-term restricted zones. Farther out, plumes create patches that require monitoring. Water restrictions here, food limitations there, temporary relocation in some areas, long-term controls in others. This doesn't mean the whole planet becomes equally radioactive. It means the world becomes uneven, like a map after a storm that flooded certain neighborhoods, not the entire country. Now the question everyone asks, where could people still live? The honest answer is that safety wouldn't be defined by a single country. It would be defined by conditions. Greater safety would come from distance from major clusters of severe releases, minimal rainfall during plume passage, access to clean monitored water, the ability to produce food locally or through reliable routes, and alternative energy sources. In this scenario, regions that can restart life locally, smaller communities, agricultural zones, places with stable water and potential local energy like hydro, wind, or geothermal would have an advantage because dependence on fragile global logistics would be lower. And now the big twist, even if you avoid contamination, civilization can be hit harder by something else. Not by a Geiger counter, but by chains. Electricity leads to communications, logistics, fuel, medicine, water, and food. Many people imagine apocalypse as radiation and empty cities. In the first weeks, more lives could be disrupted by system collapse than by radiation itself. A hospital can be in a green zone, yet fail without stable power. Sterilization, oxygen systems, refrigeration for medicine, labs. Water can exist nearby, but without pumping and treatment, it becomes unsafe. Stores can be intact, But without deliveries, shelves empty fast, and panic spreads faster than any plume. When people don't understand risk maps, rumors fill the gaps, and rumors travel farther than winds. Week by week, the world redraws its geography. Areas near some plants become evacuation and restriction zones. Some major cities, even if not heavily contaminated, become vulnerable because they depend on constant supply chains. Meanwhile, regions with water and land become anchors, places where food can grow, water can be filtered, and local networks can form. Over time, survival depends not only on radiation levels but on resilience, communities, and resources. Time also changes the risk. Some hazards spike early and fade relatively quickly. Others persist longer and shape how land can be used, especially soil, forests, and food systems. So after the first months, the world doesn't just get used to it. It measures, monitors, labels. New food standards appear, new maps of restricted areas. Testing of water and products becomes routine. Some territories slowly return to partial use. Others remain restricted for a long time. Again, it's not endless darkness, it's complexity. New rules written by physics and weather, not politics. A year later in this scenario, humanity is living in a different reality. Trade routes shift, parts of industry stop or relocate. Some governments tighten control, others lose it. Migration reshapes entire regions. At the same time, recovery zones appear, local grids, new agricultural corridors, communities rebuilding with autonomy. And there's a strange paradox. Where humans leave, nature often returns quickly. Nature doesn't fear headlines. It simply grows in the silence. So, could life continue? In this thought experiment, yes, but it would change. Not because everything becomes uniformly poisoned, but because the world becomes uneven. People would need to understand risk, test water and food, avoid hotspots, build new supply chains, and rely more on local stability. The most dangerous zones would be near the most severe failures and where rainfall deposited plumes onto the ground. The most viable places to continue normal life would be farther regions with minimal deposition, reliable water, food capacity, and energy options. But before you leave this video with fear, here's the most important point. This scenario is fictional. Every nuclear plant fails at the same time is an extreme thought experiment. In the real world, nuclear safety is built on multiple independent layers of protection, redundancy, containment barriers, procedures, oversight, continuous improvement. Plants are not protected by a single switch. That's why a global simultaneous collapse of all nuclear power plants is essentially impossible in reality. These systems exist precisely to prevent accidents from becoming chain reaction world-ending events. So this video isn't about panic. It's about scale, science, and understanding how much of modern life depends on control, engineering, and responsibility. The good news is that real-world systems are designed to keep things stable, and our job is to keep it that way. If you enjoyed this kind of scientific what-if story, hit the like button, leave a comment with your thought. What would be the scariest part for you? Radiation itself or the collapse of systems? And make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. There are even more powerful scenarios coming.